100 years ago, the US dollar was backed up by gold. Gold has been used as a store of value for more than 4,000 years. People trusted gold. People trusted the US dollar. The monetary system was built upon trust. Production, unemployment, and inflation took their natural courses. 50 years later, the gold standard eventually came to an end. In 1971, US President Nixon declared the US will no longer redeem currency into gold. Abandoning the gold standard had some consequences. The bear market of 1973 and 1974 wiped 43% of stocks. The great mathematician Benno Mandelbrot documented in his book The Misbehavior of Markets that the end of the gold standard turned the sleepy currency market into the world's largest casino. Abandoning the gold standard had severe consequences. As pointed out by Mandelbrot, it opened the door for speculation. But not only that, it opened also the door for money printing. Finally, the central bank could print money out of thin air and by this manipulate the natural way of production, unemployment, and inflation. Needless to say, the foundation of trust in the monetary system started to stand on shaky grounds. Additional 50 years later, we evidenced what is nowadays known as the Great Financial Crisis, reaching its peak in 2008 when the US investment bank giant Lehman Brothers eventually ended up in default. But not only Lehman Brothers had problems, banks all over the world faced a very similar situation. Some were saved, others weren't. What was the problem with that specific financial crisis? Not even banks trusted each other anymore. The bank-to-bank lending virtually stopped, which disrupted the whole financial system. In only 1 century, we moved from complete trust in the monetary system to complete distrust. But you know the saying, one man's joy is another man's sorrow. It should come as no surprise that some community tried to take advantage out of that situation of distrust. On 3rd of January 2009, Bitcoin was released, the first cryptocurrency. And surprise, surprise, it was the same day when banks were given a $900 billion bailout by the US government. What is Bitcoin and what are Bitcoin-like cryptocurrencies? Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like cryptocurrencies use blockchain technology, allowing a peer-to-peer system to verify transactions on the blockchain. Bitcoin assumes complete distrust among its users. Advocates or supporters of cryptocurrencies will tell you that this decentralized peer-to-peer system is a great advantage of cryptocurrencies as opposed to the central bank system. They will not tell you about volatility, money laundering, theft and scam. What about volatility? If you have the US dollar in your portfolio and you trade it against the euro, within a year, at times you have to pay $1 for 1 euro, at other times you have to pay $1.20 to obtain 1 euro. So the price fluctuation is about 20%. If you have Bitcoin in your portfolio, in a year, at times you have to pay $10,000 for 1 unit of Bitcoin, at other times you have to pay $60,000 for 1 unit of Bitcoin, and then it can fall back to $10,000. So the price fluctuation is 600% here in this example. The weekly price fluctuation of Bitcoin is higher than the annual price fluctuation of the US dollar. Scholars have reached the consensus that Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like cryptocurrencies are not a store of value due to the extremely high level of volatility. Your grandmother knew already that. Scholars need more than 1,000 studies to figure this out. Some companies, like Tesla, tried to adopt Bitcoin as a means of payment, but soon after that, a couple of weeks later, they abandoned it again, and that for some good reasons. What about money laundering? Research has shown that 50% of all Bitcoin transactions can be traced back to some sort of criminal activity. Research has shown that cryptocurrencies are the #1 choice for drug dealers because they can hide behind a presumed anonymity. Whereas Bitcoin has a public ledger, implying that transactions are stored on a public database, there are also cryptocurrencies that allow for completely anonymous transactions. These cryptocurrencies are referred to as privacy coins, whereas Bitcoin is referred to as a non-privacy coin. In my own research, I hypothesized that these privacy coins might form an own user base that is distinct from the market for non-privacy coins. What we figured out was that indeed the market for privacy coins forms an own asset market equilibrium. We argue that this is an indication that the market for privacy coins has indeed an own user base that is distinct from the market for non-privacy coins. And you might have a guess, who are the users? What about theft? You might have heard about Bitcoin cyber attacks. Once in a while, it makes it into the news. Cyber attacks is something that happens regularly nowadays, right? In my own research, we investigated 58 cyber attacks on Bitcoin. What most people do not know is that 10% of the whole Bitcoin supply is already stolen. And half of that in only one cyber attack. We investigated the underlying distribution of cyber attacks on Bitcoin. We figured out that the underlying distribution is governed by what mathematicians call a power law process. Moreover, we could show that this process is close to having an infinite theoretical mean. What does that mean? It means we cannot rule out the possibility that in only one cyber attack, the whole Bitcoin supply could be stolen. That's impossible for traditional currencies such as the US dollar or the euro. We see there's a completely different kind of risks in the market for cryptocurrencies as opposed to the market for traditional currencies. If you lose your credit card, how much can you lose? 500 euros, $500? Rest is covered by some insurance. It's very different in cyberspace. Finally, what about scam? Some of you might have heard about the OneCoin scam, who became quite popular here in Finland, especially in an area referred to Österbotten. This is where I come from. So what has happened? People were fooled into believing to obtain a high return in the future once they invest their savings in OneCoin. OneCoin, however, turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. People lost their money. The facilitators of OneCoin ended up in jail, and right so. Research has shown that about 80% of cryptocurrencies used for what is called initial coin offerings are subject to scam. So, are cryptocurrencies a blessing or a curse? Research evidence suggests that cryptocurrencies are rather wolves in sheep clothes, as opposed to a remedy. Thank you.